So this is William Gilpin. William Gilpin is going to be the first territorial governor of Colorado. Abraham Lincoln sent William Gilpin out as soon as he was inaugurated. Fort Sumter breaks out. So William Gilpin is going to get to Colorado, and he's going to, say essentially the federal government is occupied, so Colorado was left to save itself, with the governor's aid. So all we had was William Gilpin, and there's no place for Coloradans to retreat, so we're compelled to stand and fight. He said that the citizen must also be a soldier and armed. Colorado needed an effective military, judicial system, and to be the bulwark of their liberties to fight against, the damn Confederates. So March 4th, 1861, Lincoln is inaugurated. See, 1869 in Colorado, it was said that everybody carried deadly weapons in order to protect themselves from the lawless. Fully half of the citizens wore 6-shooters. Vigilance committees and informal people's courts helped stem the tide of the spread of crime. On May 27th, Gilpin arrives in Colorado. Gilpin's the governor. Lincoln hastily ordered him to Denver in the spring of 1861. He gets there May 27th. He faced a multitude of challenges. Rival cities vied to become the new territory's capital. Immigrants feared Indian attacks, and the nascent Southern secession movement threatened Colorado's future as part of the United States. So the federal government's occupied. Colorado's got to fight for themselves. So we got to stand and fight. We got to be a soldier, and we got to be armed to fight for the bulwark of our liberties. 22 legislators are going to meet September 9th, 1861. That's the territorial legislature. And he called for the territory militia. Let's see, 22 legislators passed a resolution being in favor of the Union, in favor of Abraham Lincoln and the United States of America, and against the goddamn terrorist, fucking slave-owning, rat bastard, Confederate, motherfucking racist fucks. The speech was distributed all throughout the territory, including a Spanish version that was sent to the San Luis Valley that referred to Gilpin as Guillermo Gilpin. So, March 18th, 1862, 8 days before the troops that Gilpin raised gave the Union a decisive victory at Glorieta Pass. We're going to save the entire West. So Colorado saved the entire West from going Colorado or going Confederate. But Gilpin is going to get replaced before that battle, but it's going to be 2 months later. So he's going to, be the governor when the victory happens, but then he's going to get replaced right afterwards with John Evans of Illinois. So William Gilpin remained in office until May, so he get to welcome his victorious volunteers back to Denver. The Gettysburg of the West, the Battle of Glorieta Pass. So you had goddamn Henry Hopkins Sibley invaded New Mexico in 1862. This is a Confederate fucking asshole, Henry Hopkins Sibley. It's always the Confederates who break the goddamn neutralities of the states. Kentucky was neutral, then the Confederates invaded. New Mexico was neutral, and then the Confederates invaded. They're a bunch of sucker-punching cheaters. Confederates thought that if they could take New Mexico, then they could take Colorado, then Nevada, Arizona, then California, Oregon, the West Coast. The gold in Colorado was a major objective. Abraham Lincoln said that the Colorado gold was the lifeblood of our financial credit. Miners and frontiersmen and free soilers from Kansas. That's who was fighting on the American side. Miners and frontiersmen and free soilers from Kansas. So they were well seasoned. They were officers who did not know caution or fear. They were hardy. And they were not in the habit of being afraid. 3 days of battle. The Battle of Glorieta Pass, and on the third day, the Union had found the Confederate supply line, and 7 companies of men, 5 Coloradan companies, 2 federal companies, descended down the mountains right on to the damn Confederates like the IDF did to Cynthia McKinney and the Freedom Flotilla. And then guess what? Those damn Texas Confederates, they ran off scared. They ran off back to San Antonio. And they were scared. They said about the Coloradan Union Army, they said instead of Mexicans and regulars, the Coloradans were regular demons, that iron and lead had no effect upon them in the shape of the Pike Peakers from the Denver City gold mines. So they hated those damn Pikes Peakers. Had it not been for the devils from Pikes Peak, this country would have been ours. So that's what the Confederates were sitting there saying after the Battle of Glorieta Pass. So Colorado saved the entire West from being taken over by the Confederate pieces of shit. Over 100 Union men died, and over 200 Confederate men had died at the Battle of Glorieta Pass. So they dropped down the mountains and they're descending, right? It's easier to from the high point down to the low point. And then they destroyed their supply line. And they, destroyed, I guess, their cannons and their horses and the food and all of it. And the Battle of Glorieta Pass was therefore successful. Hey! June 1864. I do not enjoy living in a country where every man you meet thinks it's safe to carry a loaded pistol. A loaded pistol. The practice is universal in all parts of Colorado, said U.S. Senator Nathaniel Hill. Article 2, Section 13 of Colorado's Constitution is one of the strongest pro-Second Amendment. The strongest available language, distinguished personal liberty from community defense, says that the right to arms protects both for community defense and personal defense. It's also community defense is not only through militia service, also the community defense was to be led by appropriate legal officials and not by freelancing, and authorizing restriction and prohibition of carrying concealed weapons. So it can't even be questioned. The right of no person can't even be questioned when it comes to, can you defend your property, your person, or your home, or your homeland, or your pets? June 1864, that was U.S. Senator Nathaniel Hill. Nathaniel Hill is going to become a senator, I think, for Colorado. And he's like, you know what? Every goddamn Colorado's carrying this loaded pistol around. Article 2, Section 13 was also anti-lynching by saying in aid of the civil power. That's not ad hoc people's courts and hangings. That means it had to be in aid of the civil power, usually the sheriff, right? The sheriff. But the civil power could also be the commissioners. It could be U.S. Marshals. The civil power. So that's not, very defined. And so when it comes to Colorado, is going to get formed in 1876, 1 year before the end of Reconstruction. So Colorado was essential in stopping the West from falling into the Confederate hands. And so the territory of Colorado was, around since 1861. And then 1876 is when the Constitution and the Act of the Congress and the Enabling Act and all that. So 1876 is when Colorado becomes a state, the centennial state, because it's 100 years on top of 1776 when, July 4th, the Declaration of Independence. So 100-year anniversary of being free in America. And when it comes to the right to bear arms, yeah, you got a right to bear arms against the goddamn Confederate pieces of shit. And also, who can argue that the Native American genocide, you had the Kiowa and the Zuni and the Utes and the Navajo and the Comanche and the Yikaria Apache and the Pueblo natives all around the San Luis Valley. Who can deny that they should have had, they should have been armed. They should have been armed and they should have fought. The Native American genocide was, it's a slow but sure genocide. So, what is my point? My point is Colorado is a badass fucking Union state, a badass anti-Confederate state. If it wasn't for goddamn Colorado, the entire West could have been Confederate. So, thanks, Colorado, for saving all of the West for the anti-slavery United States of American Abraham Lincoln